Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are once again looking into the future to the next expansion, World of Warcraft 8.0, an expansion we think we know lots about, even though actually we know next to nothing at all about it, even now, less than a month away from a Blizzcon, in which we think we know there's going to be an expansion reveal. I mean, that's what Ian said, didn't he? He kind of said it, definitely, didn't he? I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Anyway, basically Blizzard are playing their cards so close to their chests, it's like being in a poker game with a T-Rex, and this has left the way clear in recent months for rampant speculation, which, as BlizzCon draws ever closer, has reached Tom Cruise sexuality levels of intrigue. And of course, we've been playing the speculation game ourselves. So allow us to indulge one more time as we look at a theory that we have about 8.0 with regard to factions. Because Blizzard have got a major problem on their hands with the Horde and Alliance right now. How do you maintain a brutal faction war when we're both fighting the same threat, hanging out in the same places, traveling in the same disco ship, and taking our orders from the same dad? The dynamic of two warring factions is a good one, and it's what the game is based on, but it's clearly not working for the Horde and Alliance right now. Wouldn't it be great if there was another way that you could pick a side in WoW, where the stakes were just that little bit higher and we had more reason to fight the other side? What if next expansion, whether you're Horde or Alliance, isn't the most important question? Join us as we ask, what if, going forward, what really matters is whether your allegiance is with the light or the void, okay? Go, 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 go. Warcraft is a game truly built on faction identity and animosity. The first Warcraft games worked from a narrative point of view because although there were nominally good guys and bad guys, you played as both, and both were given equal weight in the story. As time has gone on, new races have swelled the ranks of the two factions, leaders have come and gone, but one thing has always remained the same. Blizzard totally favour the Horde, the dicks. Or, sometimes the Alliance. Anyway, no, what there has always been is war. No matter what Azeroth-ending threat has popped up over the years, generally the Horde and Alliance have always managed to find time to knock seven shades out of each other, in between occasionally working together and saving the universe. But here's the thing. Recently, threats to Azeroth have been getting so much bigger that the faction war has had to take more and more of a back seat. And nowhere is this clearer than in Legion. With the Horde being welcomed back into Dalaran, the class order halls encouraging everyone to get along like the Brady Bunch, and the small matter of the I was the ultimate baddie in Warcraft until Chronicles Sargeras to stop. There's been very little time to focus on some good old-fashioned ganking. It's fair to say that, like U2 in a cowboy hat shop, the faction war has lost its edge. And with that, a really important part of the game has gone missing too. Now, as I see it, Blizzard have got two choices going forward. One, they can place faction animosity front and center in the next expansion, which is highly possible. I would say even probable. If we are, for example, going to be looking at a South Seas expansion for 8.0, the idea of faction ships to get around on is just too tantalizing not to consider. And the thought of both factions racing each other to secure the resources on different forgotten islands has terrific narrative potential too. Like how the Horde and Alliance being at each other's throats basically caused everything bad that happened on Pandaria and destroyed an untouched, beautiful and peaceful paradise. That was great fun. Let's do it again. What pristine utopian civilizations can we fuck up this time? And this is an idea that I really like and I could totally get on board with, obviously. But it's not one that Blizzard seem to be too enthused about themselves. They seem much more keen on big, massive, world-ending threats than the more localized and personal faction wars, which is why Legion is all, shit guys, look at these demons, there's loads of them. Best we nod our differences away and help each other out this time around. I mean, I know there is technically some faction plot going on with Sylvanas and Greymane, but come on, that's about as memorable as Bill Cosby's birthday drinks, and who can blame Blizzard for that? There must be massive pressure on them to create stakes that are higher every expansion, and you can say you want a more personal, low-key story all you like, but if you feel that strongly about it, then you should have bought Mr. Pandaria, shouldn't you? And anyway, there is this other possibility in the back of my mind right now that I just can't shake, because Blizzard could just as easily go the other way. For every player lamenting the lack of hostility between the Horde and Alliance and Legion, there are just as many who would like to see cross-faction communication and play. And you can see their point too. If we are all fighting the same battle, and in Legion we are, why can't Horde and Alliance players be in the same raid or dungeon group? If my Orc Shaman can understand and communicate with every single Nightborn elf NPC he meets and takes orders from in Suramar, why is it when he meets an actual Night Elf player in the world, their speech suddenly makes about as much sense as Crank 2? I mean, when you think about it, what option does he really have other than ganking the poor low-level chump? Don't blame the player, little elf, blame the game. We fight the same big bads, we save the same worlds, we pick up our quests from the same people most of the time. Really, what's the point in making us sit in different group finder queues for hours just to maintain the appearance of a faction war that, if we're totally honest with ourselves, doesn't exist? It's almost like WoW needs a new battle to get behind, like we need new sides to fight for. And luckily for us, it just so happens that this is exactly what Blizzard seem to be setting up with recent events. The light and the shadow, or the void, are two concepts that we've always had in WoW. And on the face of it, it's always been easy to think of the light as being good and the void being bad, but Blizzard doesn't really work that way. And just like the Alliance good, Horde bad fallacy, this turns out to be a naive interpretation. Since we got to Argus, Blizz have been bombarding us with characters and lore that set up the armies of the light and the void as being a bit less distinct than we may have thought, as two sides of the same coin. And no two characters embody that idea more than Alleria and Turalyon. One has dedicated his life to the worship of the light and harnessing that great power to achieve good. The other now wields the power of shadow. Two forces that cannot coexist together. Turalyon and Alleria can no longer even physically touch, but at the same time, they cannot exist without the other. They love each other, they have a child together, and Turalyon and Alleria are both undoubtedly good guys. These are the characters that make both sides relatable to us now. In the frankly wonderful recent audio drama, 1,000 Years of War, Alleria realizes that while the most powerful practitioners of the light and shadow can both see parts of the future, there are parts that the light can't see and parts which the shadow can't see. Just like the void, the light is always flawed, and it turns out capable of some pretty douchey Weinstein-esque behavior too. If we are going to fight something bigger and badder than Sargeras and the Legion, we're going to need both. And what if that is our new faction war right there? What if, instead of sometimes doing the light's work and occasionally helping Locust Walker out with some void stuff, we have to actually pick a side? You'd still be Horde or Alliance, but at the beginning of the next expansion, you have to choose whether you'll be fighting for the light or the shadow. And all of the same restrictions that now exist between Horde and Alliance will then apply to the light and shadow sides, but not to the Horde and Alliance. So suddenly, your Alliance gnome can group with your friend's troll druid to run a dungeon with, because you both chose the light faction, but not that human shadow priest though, because she is now a fully paid up member of the void faction. How's that for a shake-up? It's an idea that's revolutionary, but also reinforces a dynamic on which the game is based. It would give players a meaningful and important choice to make at the start of the next expansion. I mean, you better make sure that your whole guild get the memo about all choosing to fight for the light before the next expansion, you know? And Blizzard a solid lore reason to finally enable the cross-Horde and Alliance play and communication that they vaguely hanker after. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Taliesin, you're a genius, I need some babies, please will you have my babies? Obviously, but you're also thinking, hang on, that new big bad that you're talking about, the one even bigger than Sargeras and the Burning Legion, we already know what that is. It's the Void Lords and their peons, the Old Gods. And the thing about the Void Lords is, they are the Void. How can you possibly have players choosing to take the side of the Void when it's the Void that we're going to be fighting against and trying to stop? To which I say, oh come on. Yes, the Void Lords are the baddies, possibly the most significant baddies in the Warcraft universe. We use Death Knights to defeat the Lich King, what's the difference? And we also know from 1,000 Years of War that the light and void cannot exist without each other. So even though we will probably have to find a way of seeing off the old gods, and eventually the Void Lords too, we can't afford to actually wipe out the void itself. But even if the aims of the two new factions and the overall enemy they are fighting are the same, that doesn't mean that they can't think the other side is totally wrong and dangerous and needs to be destroyed, leading to lots of juicy in-game fighting between the two. At this stage, the Horde and the Alliance have just helped each other out too much, fought side by side too many times for their rivalry to really mean anything. Light and Shadow has that rivalry all over again, from scratch. Now obviously there are some details which I haven't worked out and which would complicate things, like faction capitals. Who gets Thunderbluff? Could it be a light city in the week with the Void getting custody every second weekend? Or would Blizzard flat out designate capitals to each faction? What would happen to players under level 110? Would they also have to choose the Light or Void faction from level 1? Or would they keep the old Horde and Alliance stuff until they get to current content and then make a choice? And then there's the class problem. Would you allow, for example, a Shadow Priest to even choose the Light faction in the first place? And if Shadow Priests have to play for the Void, what happens when they change spec to Holy? Who gets to kill Jaina? Do we all get to kill Jaina? When do we kill Jaina? These are all really good questions, and questions that I have no answers to at all. But come on, I've only been thinking about this for 5 minutes, give me a chance. What do you think, guys? Has the Alliance and Horde battle run its course? Are we ready for new factions? Would you be happy to see it happen, or am I talking out of my void? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to help these videos happen. They really are the best. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Kronosh. No, my name is Taliesin. From me and Evitel, until next time, cheerio.